So, but yes, we can jump into the superlative game.
All right. What was the best value for you this entire free agency?
Yeah, two guys that we had mentioned, and I had brought it up when we had talked about both of them. Uh, one Puna Ford. Again, for
Mm-hmm.
him to be on a 3-year contract making less than 10 million per was very good. And again, he's a guy that, as we had talked about, knows his role and does his role very, very, very well. And again, I think his fit within that Rams defensive line is very, very good. But then the other one, and it was a re-signing. It wasn't a new signing. Was Chris Godwin. The fact that you were
Mm-hmm.
able to keep him into the building or keep him in the building when he could have went elsewhere for more money, um, and he's 29 years old. Given he's coming off of an injury, but he's 29-year-old wide receiver only making $22 million a year, who has in 2022, so just 3 years ago, he had a 104 catch season. And before he had gotten hurt, he was on pace to break 1,000 yards for what would have been the fifth consecutive year in his career. I absolutely love that. And again, the fact that they were able to keep him in the building at just $22 million a year was electric. Absolutely love that for them. But who's your best value?
My best value was actually a corner, Christian Fulton, going to the Chiefs at 2 years, 20 million. I think them finally getting a guy like him that again adds the flexibility of being an inside outside corner, mostly outside corner, but because of his size, I think he could be pushed inside to kind of take over the nickel role that they have open right now. Just overall getting another instinctual athletic corner in the Spags room, I just expect it to work. And oh, by the way, you steal it from, a division rival. That's also a nice cherry on top. And I think just getting younger. I know they don't play the same positions with Justin Reed, but getting younger in theoretically the same role, being a close to the line of scrimmage player in Christian Fulton, I thought was one of my like it is the best value to me of anyone on the board.
To add into the safety guy there, again, you look at this signing in Javon Holland, you're like, how are you saying a guy that's making $15 million a year, the best value? Is when you stack up to where he is at his position, one of the
Mm-hmm.
best safeties in the entire league, versus the contracts that were handed out to the other safeties. Again, you add Cam Bynum is making the same money that he is. Trayvon
Mm-hmm.
Moore, a guy in the same class who's not as good as him, is making more money than he is. I love Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney is making $1.5 million more dollars than he is as well. Let me ask you this: would you rather have McKinney on 16 and a half or Javon Holland on 15?
It depends, but Holland for his flexibility, I think I would value more. Just knowing me, and that's how I value defensive backs. Having that versatility that Holland does, being able to play in the box, where I think McKinney is kind of a straight up free safety. He is your straight up center fielder, where I think Holland, you sprinkle him around and he can make plays all over the field. No, I agree with you on that one too. Uh, then we have to get it. We don't like being negative, but who is the worst value? I know we kind of mentioned this, but go ahead.
Yes, you would. This is just so clear to me. It has to be Javon Kinlaw. Again, you're paying a dude $15 million a year who has really never at any point in his career been an elite producer. Ridiculous. He's coming off a 4.5 sack season, making $15 million. It's a joke to me. It makes absolutely no sense. And to keep it within this, I know a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this. And again, this is really rich coming from an Eagles fan. But I did not like that Milton Williams contract either. $26 million a year for a guy that has never proven to be that guy on a defensive
Mhm.
line is atrocious. I absolutely love him. He will hold a special place in my heart for performance that he had put on down the stretch of the playoffs. But $26 million a year from Milton Williams, as an Eagles fan, no thank you. You guys can absolutely take him for that price tag.
No, I agree with you. I think we had conversations before free agency started. Is like whatever that Milton Williams number is, we're all gonna just ugh, just in disgust. And it was even more than I thought. So yeah, I don't want to. I'm not gonna take Milton Williams or Javon Kinlaw because I agree with those. But I'm gonna go to the offensive side of the ball. I think the Aaron Banks deal. I really do. It making a marginal, like maybe marginal upgrade at the price that you paid. Can you guess where Aaron Banks is in total, like average per year of the left guards in football?
Uh, um, Honestly, considering that Hunt went out and signed the $20 million a year, um, uh, two, two or three.
If I throw in both guard positions, he's a little lower on the list, but in terms of pure left guard, he is only behind Quentin Nelson and your guy Landon Dickerson per year value. So that one to me is just, especially because Tooney was out there available. I know it's a fourth round pick. You don't want to give up picks, but still, I think he's a better player. I think he's a better foundational piece for an offensive line. There's more versatility with him. I just the Aaron Banks, it's a huge number, and I know there's an out after the first 2 years, but still, just overall at that number, I just I can't get on board with it because I think you're creating you're just creating roster shuffle along that line, and I don't like doing that. I thought that was a pretty good offensive line this year, so no. Uh, let's get into the teams. Was there a team for you that really stuck out as winning the free agency period? I know
Oh,
we did
yeah.
was is it your Eagles?
What?
Is it your Eagles? Their monster
Uh,
signing they made.
no. In terms and I had cut out a little bit there. Was your question the best like for agency class per team?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. To me, there's only two correct answers, and I predict that one of these teams will be yours. Um, one is the Rams, and I'll let you talk about the Rams, and if you don't, I can go into bigger detail with that one. But for me, it was the Vikings.
Hmm.
To be honest with you, again, they had went into free agency and said we want to build on the interior of both sides of the line. And they went out. They signed Jonathan Allen. They signed Javon Hargraves. They signed Will Fries. They signed Ryan Kelly. They were able to retain Byron Murphy. They were able to keep Aaron Jones on 2 years, $20 million, which wasn't bad. And they were able to get Isaiah Rodgers. Some people have mixed opinions on that deal, but 2 years, $15 million. A guy 2.5 years ago was one of the better corners in all of the NFL, and was able to really step in at times for the Eagles when Darius Slay was hurt. But again, they went into free agency with a plan, trying to shore up the interior on both sides of the ball. And I think they accomplished that at a very, very high level. So it'd be the Vikings for me.
Yeah, I thank you for leaving the Rams for me because it is absolutely the Rams. I think the Rams knocked it out of the park. Uh, what you're supposed to do in free agency for me is you're supposed to shore up your holes and get multiple on both sides of the ball. And I think their main signings, like if I even lump in because I think the whole offseason period, I think we lump in everything, even from the combine. keeping Stafford, keeping a proven quarterback in the conference, re-signing Alaric Jackson, who's an ascending tackle at 19 per, where you just saw a guy who is worse in Dan Moore get more money, and then you go out and you get a bona fide stud receiver in Devontae Adams, and then a just what, like I said earlier, what do we need on defense? We need a space eater along the defensive line. Well, let's go get the best one in Puna Ford. I think the Rams, they knocked it out of the park for me. I think there's still ways to go. I think they still got to get some, they're not perfect. They still need to get some, linebacker signings here and there and figure out the rest of the holes of the roster. But so far, I think with the money they have spent, I think they have spent as well as anybody in the league. And so we get from, like we did earlier, we go from good to bad. Was there a team that was just underwhelming in the free agency class for you?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a team that maybe some people aren't talking about. A lot of people want to say the Eagles, but the Eagles went in with a plan. They said
No.
they were going to be patient, and they are patient. What are we doing knocking the team? We knew they weren't going to keep these guys. For me, it's the Seahawks. They really haven't signed anyone worth anything other than Ernest Jones. And they
Mm-hmm.
have lost big pieces. Again, they got worse at the quarterback position, and we had talked about our thoughts on that. But they had gotten worse at the quarterback position, let DK go. Well, they traded DK, and Tyler Lockett's out. And so they lost
Mm-hmm.
three big pieces while not really adding anything to their actual roster. I just they haven't done anything. Honestly, I was going to say they're not a needle mover for me, but they are in the worst direction possible. I think they have just gotten worse, and that's not what you want to hear from a team heading into free agency. Who's yours?
I have multiple. I kind of have one cop out. I think the Bengals is kind of my cop out because I'm kind of just factoring. I like some of their moves they make, like getting T.J. Slayton, bringing back Joseph Asai, things like that. Little marginal moves, like they're kind of setting up the extensions, but like these extensions got to be done sooner or later for me. And if they don't get done by the draft, it's gonna leave another rocky offseason with this team. And so the Bengals are kind of my number one. My number two, a little sneaky one. I'm not buying the Washington hype because of what I
Mm.
just saw last year with the Houston Texans. The Texans go out, they trade the second round pick, they go and get Stephon Diggs. It all looks great. It all, we're just reloading. We're trying to maximize the rookie quarterback contract. It is so easy for this team to get sucked into these names, Debo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil, and trading all this capital that you don't have avenues for cheap contracts later down the road. So right now, with the signings they've made, like nothing is, the Debo thing and the Tunsil thing are kind of, needle moving in a sense. You get better along the offensive side of the ball, but overall, the rest of them are just like these are just marginal moves besides the Javon Kinlaw, like Mariota, Jonathan Jones, Dietrich Wise, Will Harris from My Saints, paying him at a real deal contract now, and then like even smaller things than that. But so I'm just not drinking the Kool-Aid too quickly on Washington. I think they could still be a great team, but I think teams fall into this trap where they overachieve in that first year and they go, we got to hit it hard. We got to hit this offseason as hard as we can to really maximize this and maximize this rookie quarterback contract because we have one of the guys that sometimes it's like slow down a little bit. You could be punched right back down to earth next week. This team could all of a sudden be 10-7, the 7 seed, and they're losing in the first round with all these additions. So it's gonna be interesting with how the Commanders shake out, but they're they're a sneaky loser to me because of past history with these.